that people have heard from their father, who heard it from their father. And these stories have literally been passed down in Am Yisrael. Who is the storyteller behind the book? None other than the legendary, incredible Maggid of Yerushalayim, known as Rav Shalom Shvadron, who literally traveled the world to strengthen Yiddishkeit and to give Musar when necessary, to give criticism when people needed it, and to give encouragement when people needed it. So I had the good fortune that he was a Sandik at my bris, I think 45 years ago or so, 46 years ago, I forgot how old I am, but I was zeicher that he was at my bris. So I think that passion to go around the world and tell stories is in my heart. And that's why I'd like to share with you a story. The first story I'm going to read is on page 187, Kuf Pei Zayin. The story is really hard to believe, but it happened. And these are stories that are famous stories. They've been literally passed on from generation to generation. In the city of Slutsk, Slutsk was a famous Jewish city in Europe. There was a boy who got nicknamed Yasala, the troublemaker, or in Hebrew, Yasala Hashovav or Hashovev. He was a boy who people knew was always into trouble. Either he was the guy fighting with someone in class or making fun of someone with name calling, whether he was the one that was chutzpahdik to the teacher. He was definitely the guy that we would call a teacher's nightmare. Every teacher has at least one student who is a nightmare for that teacher. No, I'm joking, not every teacher, but some teachers. And the teacher has nightmares about this student. Student. And they are right. The one who never does his classwork, his homework. So it turns out there are some people in school, they are angels, they never do harm or bad, and there are some that are, we call them devils. So he was the devil type, not the angel type. Everyone was acquainted with him in the building, especially the principal, because he spent more time in the principal's office than he did in his class. But he happened to have been in Eloi. And Eloi is somebody who is extremely intelligent, which means just because he didn't behave, it doesn't mean he wasn't clever. He happened to have had a very good head, but he chose to use his head for silliness. It turns out he had a strong head, but he was a troublemaker. He used his brains for trouble. They say sometimes a Chacham and a Rasha are both brilliant people, but the Rasha uses his brains for doing evil, and the Chacham uses his brains for serving Hashem. It turns out this boy had no zizflash. He couldn't sit still in the class. He was always jumping around, and he couldn't concentrate so much because he was always up to mischief. It was very hard for him to sit still on the bench with all the other kids his age. And very often he would be sent out of class for disturbing and disrupting the teacher, and he would go be busy catching pigeons on rooftops. He would climb on roofs and try to catch pigeons. Please don't try that at home, because the pigeon knows how to fly and you don't, and it's very dangerous playtime he did.
I actually have a pet bird named Dog.
It turns out he would sometimes chase the birds or even the dogs in the street, and he would chase them and they would run away from him. I guess they were more scared of him than he was of them. He would very often go swimming, and he spent a lot of time with his birds, his dogs, and his swimming. But he even swam with the goyim. It's not nice to go swim with goyim. Goyim are not sneeze, and they don't act the right way. But he was a real troublemaker. So you could just know, etc., in your mind. Just imagine conjure in your mind what kind of troublemaker he was. Yeah, that's the kind he was. One day when he was 12 years old, he was running in his way, in his wild behavior. And he passed by a house and he heard some screaming inside the house, shouting. And he realized the father was screaming at his son. Yossi wasn't lazy when it came to climbing walls. He climbed up the wall and he peeked into the window. He wanted to know who's screaming at who. And he was so curious, he looked and he saw a father hitting his son. And the son had done bad. Maybe he stole something or he did something that a Jew shouldn't do. And his father says, "What do you think? Am I going to let you grow up to be a para adam like Yasla the troublemaker? You think I'm going to let you become an animal like that boy?" And Yassel's looking out the window. And the father says, "I'd rather kill you before you become a monster like that boy." And then Yassel started realizing, wow, fathers would rather kill their kid than to see him turn out like me? Ooh, that's really bad. Fathers are using me as a nickname? He's hitting his son and saying, "I'll never let you, I don't want you to become another Yassel the troublemaker." And the father said, "I don't want you to grow up like him, such a bad boy." Little did he know that Yassel was staring through the window cracks. And Yassel realized, I better change my life. If people are already saying they don't want their son to become like me, then I better do something that I don't become like me either. Yassel was really taken back. And he thought to himself, wow, in the city of Slutsk, I'm already known as a bad boy. Then when people are bad, the parents warn them, "Do you want to become like Yassel, the troublemaker?" I think I have to change my direction in life. He says, from now on, I don't want to be such a troublemaker. So he had some money in his pocket. He went and he bought himself some cake. And he went and he gathered all the doggies. Ruff, ruff, ruff. All the dogs came running to him. And he started throwing cake at them. And he said, "Guys, I just wanted to make a goodbye party. I'm not going to have time to play with you anymore. So I just wanted to say that we're not really friends anymore. Here, guys, have some cake." And basically he was saying goodbye to the dogs because he wanted to stop chasing them and playing with them. Then Yassel went over to his father. And he says, "Abba, Tati, Daddy, Papa, Father,
Abba.
I want to go to yeshiva. To learn in yeshiva, I want to go to a big yeshiva." And the father was a little bit surprised. No, a lot of bit surprised.
Wait, why a lot?
He knew Yassel as a troublemaker. Troublemakers don't want to go to yeshiva. So he said, "What are you up to, Yassel? What are you thinking? What's going through your head right now? What are you up to? What kind of trick you want to do?" And he says, "No, I want to go to yeshiva." So I says, yeah, sure, I'm sure you do. Go play with your birds, go play with your pigeons, go play with your dogs. And leave me be. But Yassel stood on his decision. He says, "No, Abba, I really want to go. I mean it with all sincerity. I want to go to yeshiva. And if you don't take me, I'm going to go myself." The father understood that Yassel must have been serious. He must have got an inspiration to want to go to yeshiva. So much so, he's saying he'll go himself. He looked into the eyes of the boy, and he saw that the boy somehow changed. And after a few moments of quiet, the father said, "So which yeshiva do you want to go to?" And the boy said, "Volozhin." Volozhin was the greatest yeshiva of the time. That's like Brisk is today, like the most chashuv yeshiva probably. he wanted to go to Volozhin. Volozhin was known as the mother of the yeshivas. That's what they called it. They called it the mother of the yeshivas.
What about the father?
Why don't they call it the father? Because the father doesn't really give birth to babies. The mother does. So this was the yeshiva that gave birth to many other yeshivas came from it. Kamenetz Yeshiva is a branch off of Volozhin. Many yeshivas branched out of Volozhin. Mir Yeshiva, Talz Yeshiva, Radin Yeshiva. So it was called the mother yeshiva. So it turns out it was called the mother of yeshivas. It turns out the father laughed. He couldn't hold himself back. He said, "What? You want to go to Volozhin?" He says, "Son, you didn't learn anything yet. To be able to get into Volozhin, you have to know 2 Sidarim of Gemara clearly. It means you have to know
By heart?
a lot of the Masechtos of Shas."
200 pages of Gemara.
And he says, "You don't even know 1 page of Gemara. Even 1 daf you don't know."
Not even.
So the boy Yasala said, "I don't care. I want to go to Volozhin and I'll start learning over there. And if you don't want to take me, I'm going to go myself." The father saw his son was very sincere and he couldn't change his mind. So he gave him some money and he helped him pack a suitcase with all his things in it.
How old is this?
And he was only 12 years old and he was off. Yasla left his house and he went part of the way by wagon.
How far was it?
They didn't have then trains or subways
Cars?
or airplanes. So he went part of the way by wagon,
Does he have a mother?
and part of the way he went by carriage, and part of the way he went by foot. After 3 days of traveling, he got to Volozhin. It was probably 100 miles away. And when he got there, he went to the yeshiva, to the main courtyard of the yeshiva, the big courtyard, and he asked the Bachurim, "Where is the room, the office of the Rosh Hashiva?" And everyone was staring at him. What does a 12-year-old boy want to do that he wants to speak to the Rosh Hashiva? Who is he? That he comes with such determination he has to speak to the Rosh Hashiva. But they said his room's over there. Yosela went to the door and he knocked and he heard a voice say, "Enter." And when he came in, they opened the door and he said, "Shalom Aleichem." And Rav Chaim of Volozhin, the student of the Vilna Gaon, said to him, "Aleichem Shalom. What do you need, my lad?" And the boy said, "I want to come to yeshiva." Now Rav Chaim was used to Iluyim coming to the yeshiva. These are brilliant people who have heads much more smart than people their age. And he was used to young, brilliant boys that came to learn in his yeshiva, even though the yeshiva consisted mainly of teenagers. And he says, "Okay, so tell me, what do you know?"
Go to the bathrooms.
So Yasala said, "I don't know anything, but I want to learn. I don't know anything now, but I don't know any Torah now, but I really want to learn." I hear some noise in the room. If someone wants to make noise, you could save it for recess, please. When Rav Chaim looked at the boy's eyes, they were sparkling. And he saw how the boy really wanted to learn. It seems Rav Chaim, of course, had Ruach HaKodesh, and he knew from this boy would become greatness in Torah. And he says, "Okay, I see a future for this boy." And he pinched his cheek. He says, "If you want, enter the yeshiva." Now, don't think it's so easy. A lot of times yeshivas have to say no to boys because there's not so much room in buildings to fit any person who wants to come learn. So sometimes to be accepted in a yeshiva is a big deal. Don't think it's so easy to any yeshiva to walk into. But this boy had luck. Hashem saw he wanted to steig, and we have a rule in the Gemara, "B'derech sherotza adam leilech molichan oto." The way you want to go in life, Hashem will go with you. If you want to go good, I'll help you be good. If you want to do something not so good, Hashem can in a sense, let you go. But this boy chose to stop being Yasala, the troublemaker of Slutsk, and to become Yasala, the goody-goody of Volozhin. Yasala did not wait He went right away to learn. He didn't waste a minute.